This is Loropetalum Plum Delight. There are other variety names out there. This was kind of the first big one to hit the market maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15 to 20 years ago. And it's one of my favorite plants. It can grow in full sun or part shade. A lot of people think it needs shade. I live in an inland valley that it's hot. It gets 90 to 100 degrees. I have these out in full sun in a couple of spots, and they perform very well in full sun. So don't think that you have to protect these. You really don't. Secondly, you get better color when they're in full sun. You'll get your full plum colors coming out. As you can see here, the foliage compared to the green of the lawn, you get this nice plummy new growth, and then this mixed with some darker green. What's interesting about this plant too is depending on the time of year, you get different variations in the tonality of the foliage. It'll be very plummy as the new growth comes out. I would tell you in May, after the bloom, this thing was just intense purple all over with a lot of new growth coming out. And then as this foliage matures, it turns more to a deeper green, but you always have some of this plum colored foliage on the plant. The other character that I like about it a lot is the natural density it has while not being too refined. You see that all the edges are they're kind of irregular. I just pruned this a week ago, but I like to leave it to where it still looks like a natural foliage mass. And by the way, this is probably 3 plants. Width-wise, you're looking at a planting that's about 9 feet wide, and those are about 4 feet tall. This plant will get, I'd say, easily 5 to 7 feet across, and I've seen them 6 to 7 feet tall. And if I let this get taller, it certainly would. But I like to keep it right around 4 feet tall, and you can certainly keep it closer to 3 feet without any problem just by touching it up once a year. So it does like kind of moderate water. This is not a drought tolerant type plant. Anywhere I've tried to use it that way, it hasn't done well, so it needs regular water. The other thing is that in most areas, the deer will leave this alone, so it's very flexible in terms of how you can use it and where you can use it, but that's not 100%. You need to check it out for your area. I always recommend that if you think a plant might work in a deer area, you buy one, you set it out and see what they do with it before you buy any more of them. But as kind of a mid-size design plant, this thing is great. Because you can play other colors off it. I'll show a couple of photos that show how other foliage colors play off of this, but it really has a lot of uses as a design element in a planting scheme. So, and then also I'll show you photos of the bloom on this. It's interesting now, this is August, and do you see how a couple of these little blooms are starting to come out on the plant? You'll get blooms kind of sporadically throughout the year, but I'm actually seeing some buds all over this plant. And so it looks like I'm going to get a kind of a fall bloom as well as the real intense spring bloom that we got. Oh, another key thing about this, for design spacing, I would say space these about 4 feet on center, and you'll get them filling in like you see here within 1.5 to 2 years. But presume that this plant will get 4.5 to 5 feet wide when you're spacing it. And if you've got an edge like you see here, this plant was about 1.5 feet away from the walk, and you can see that it wants to grow over and is growing over the edge. I'd say hold these back good 2 to 2.5 feet from edges, so you're not having to prune the side and shave it off. Oh, the other thing about this in where you use it. Now you can see here, this is under a pear tree. These two were planted together. The pear tree and the shrub were planted together. This is a very key point with this plant. I have had terrible luck trying to plant this under or around existing tree roots of any kind, even smaller trees. I just would really warn you off trying to do that. I think people think that this is a great part shade plant. I've had terrible luck trying to make it work in that situation. So I won't use it in those situations where there's existing trees. I don't mind planting it with new trees because the competition doesn't seem to be an issue when they're both young. But I would warn you off using this around mature trees. I've just had terrible luck. I've tried it a number of times, especially in my own property, and I just haven't been able to make that work. So Loropetalum Plum Delight, beautiful foliage plant, and a lot of versatility in a residential landscape especially. Highly recommend this plant.